What is the difference between rule and act consequentialism? Have you ever wondered how we decide what is right or wrong? In the world of ethics, there are different ways to look at this question. One interesting approach is called consequentialism. This theory judges actions based on their outcomes. Within consequentialism, we have two main types: act consequentialism and rule consequentialism. Let's break down the differences between these two ideas. Act consequentialism looks at each action on its own. It asks, what will happen if I do this? If an action leads to the best possible result in that specific situation, it is considered morally right. For instance, if breaking a traffic law in a rare case helps avoid harm, act consequentialism might say that breaking the law is okay in that moment. On the other hand, rule consequentialism takes a broader view. Instead of focusing on individual actions, it looks at the consequences of following general rules. It asks, what would happen if everyone followed this rule? If a rule generally leads to good outcomes when most people follow it, then that rule is considered morally right. For example, the rule to stop at red lights is justified because it usually leads to safer roads, even if breaking that rule might seem better in a specific case. Now, let's highlight some key differences. First, act consequentialism is all about the results of individual actions, while rule consequentialism is about the results of following rules. Second, act consequentialism requires us to evaluate each action separately, whereas rule consequentialism focuses on whether we stick to rules that promote good outcomes overall. Another difference is flexibility versus stability. Act consequentialism allows for breaking rules if it leads to better results. Rule consequentialism, however, emphasizes the importance of sticking to rules for consistency and predictability. This can provide clearer guidance in tricky situations, while act consequentialism can feel more uncertain since it requires constant evaluation of outcomes. From an ethical standpoint, rule consequentialism aims to balance good outcomes with consistent moral standards. It helps build trust and cooperation in society. However, it can face challenges when following a rule leads to poor outcomes in specific cases. This raises questions about being too rigid in our moral choices. In practice, many ethicists suggest a mix of both approaches. They believe we should generally follow rules but allow for exceptions when strictly adhering to a rule would cause harm or not lead to the best results. In summary, the main difference between rule and act consequentialism is whether we judge actions based on their individual outcomes or based on the consequences of following moral rules. Both approaches aim to promote ethical behavior based on outcomes, but they differ in how they evaluate and apply moral decisions.